They found 5 weapons and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. They found disguises, fake mustaches, and full-head Halloween masks. That was the moment one investigator thought, I know who this man is. If anyone made a move toward him, he would retaliate without hesitation. With all the yelling, the screaming, and the weapon in his hand, it was terrifying. One victim remembered thinking, I cannot move. I cannot move. Investigators wanted to reach him any way they could. They wanted to stop him. But he moved like a ghost. Historic Radnor Township, Pennsylvania, once a quiet country retreat for some of Philadelphia's most prominent families, sits just west of the city. It is the kind of prosperous community where danger feels distant until one simple discovery turns everything upside down. In the woods behind the Radnor Police Department, 2 boys, Carter Blaine and Griffin Lowe, are searching for materials to build a fort when they stumble upon a large plastic pipe buried in the ground. Inside, they find smaller PVC tubes. The tubes are long, narrow, and sealed. When the boys open them, they discover documents that look alarming, far beyond anything they can understand. They carry the items to the police station. A patrol officer escorts the boys back to the place where they found them. Hidden in the ground beneath plywood and debris is a military-style bunker. The bunker is tucked into the hillside near old trolley tracks, perfectly camouflaged. It is lined with brick and cinder block, built with care and precision. Whoever created it knew exactly what they were doing. Police move slowly. They know the site could be dangerous. One sergeant on duty has military experience, so he understands the possibility of booby traps. Once the bunker is cleared, investigators begin to dig. What they uncover looks like a paramilitary stockpile. There are 5 weapons, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, medical supplies, meals ready to eat, magazines, and more documents. In a community like Radnor, finding something like this is deeply unusual. At first, no one knows exactly what they have found. Then investigators discover something even more troubling. The handguns have had their serial numbers destroyed. They are not simply scratched off. Someone has used a grinding machine to remove them completely. That changes everything. Authorities now believe they are dealing with experienced criminals. Their concern grows into confusion when they find Halloween masks alongside the weapons. Whoever buried these items was clearly trying to hide their identity. Investigators do not know whether one person is involved or an entire group. Local authorities quickly realize the danger may be bigger than they can handle alone, so they call in county, state, and federal agencies for help. FBI agents from the Philadelphia division respond quickly. A bomb specialist, an evidence team, and a bomb dog are brought in to search for more ammunition or explosives. The team spends the day at the site, then takes everything into custody. Still, they do not fully understand what they have. FBI agents begin going through the mountain of evidence, searching for clues. Among the recovered materials is a thick stack of papers. They include maps with coded names, coded directions, and lists describing what is stored at different sites. Investigators realize there may be several more hidden locations. Then comes a stroke of luck. One agent recognizes the layout on one of the maps. It appears to show a location in Carbon County, Pennsylvania, an area he knows because he rides his bike there. Conservation Officer Wade Harlan knows the land well. As soon as he sees the shape on the map, he recognizes it as the parking lot on his game lands. A team of investigators is sent into the area to pick up the trail. But cracking the mapmaker's code is difficult, and the rugged terrain is exhausting. They hike the mountain again and again, following leads that turn into dead ends. Then, after a long and frustrating search, investigators finally find what they are looking for: a suspicious pile of rocks not far from the Game Commission parking lot. They pull one rock away and see the corner of a large ammunition can staring back at them. They know they have found another site. To the searchers, it feels like discovering lost gold. Once again, investigators uncover a treasure trove of weapons. But this discovery is far worse than anything they expected. There are rifles, AR-15S, an Uzi, and a Mini 14 rifle. Many are stored inside sealed PVC pipes. In total, investigators unearth dozens of firearms, along with more proof that this site is connected to the bunker in Radnor. The serial numbers on the shoulder weapons have been ground off, just like the handguns found earlier. They also recover thousands of rounds of ammunition, disguises, fake mustaches, and full-head Halloween masks. Investigators are stunned. Why would someone go through so much trouble to hide these things in the mountains? They do not know exactly what they have found, but they know they must act quickly. The bunkers contain enough firepower for a small army. If the person behind them has a target, a police department, or an entire community could be in danger. Who buries weapons like this unless there is a reason? Investigators begin asking themselves a frightening question. What nearby target could this person be planning to attack? After uncovering multiple bunkers filled with firearms and masks, authorities suspect there may be an extremist group operating in the area. At first, local law enforcement considers the possibility of a terrorist cell, a supremacist group, or some other underground organization. The question becomes, what kind of attack are they planning? But as investigators review the recovered documents, a different picture begins to emerge. There are hundreds of documents, including topographical maps and a list of banks. The list contains extensive surveillance notes on many banks along the East Coast. The notes include details about opening hours, closing routines, who enters first, who leaves last, and how each bank operates. At first, investigators fear that financial institutions across the region may be facing imminent attacks from a militia or terrorist group. But on closer inspection, another theory begins to take shape. The handwriting in the documents is consistent. The notes feel less like the records of an organization and more like one person's private files. As the pieces come together, agents begin to realize they may not be dealing with a terrorist plot after all. They may be dealing with a bank robber. The erased serial numbers, hidden disguises, masks, bags, and newspaper articles about bank robberies all point in that direction. There is no question that whoever created the bunkers is a bank robber. The question is, who is he? And which banks has he robbed? As investigators dig deeper, they quickly learn that several banks on the list have already been hit. That is when one investigator says, "I know who this guy is." Others ask, "Who?" He answers, "This is the Friday night bank robber." The Friday night bank robber is exactly the kind of organized criminal they have been searching for. Cunning, professional, and relentless. He is one of the most notorious figures in the FBI's file of unsolved bank robberies. Investigators believe he has robbed more banks than some of the most infamous outlaws in American history. His story begins when a masked man walks into Union National Bank in Latham, New York, near closing. The moment he enters, everyone knows what is happening. He is in charge. He points guns at people, vaults over the counter, orders tellers to open drawers, and takes money from the teller stations. In moments, he is gone with thousands of dollars. Because of the speed of the attack and the mask covering his face, no one can describe what he looks like. Most witnesses remember only the gun barrel. They know he is disguised, but they cannot clearly describe the disguise itself. A few people see the back of his neck and believe he is a white man with dark hair. Beyond that, he is almost completely concealed. Eyewitness accounts offer only limited clues. The suspect appears to be a slim male of shorter than average height, but investigators have almost nothing else to work with. No one sees him enter the bank before he is already inside. Once he leaves, he vanishes. There are no witnesses outside. No evidence is left behind. His method suggests a highly intelligent, well-trained adversary. Once inside the bank, he moves directly to where he needs to go. He knows exactly what he wants and how to get it. His physical ability is remarkable. He can leap from a standstill over the counter with ease. Nobody move. He knows what he's doing. He knows who he needs to control. With no solid leads, investigators believe their best chance is to catch him in the act. Most bank robbers who succeed once usually strike again. But then the trail goes quiet, and the Friday night bank robber disappears from view. The investigative team is pulled into other cases. Then an alarm goes off at Jim Thorpe National Bank near Lehighton, Pennsylvania. The robber bursts through the outer door. As soon as he hits it, the tellers see him and trigger the alarm. He continues through the second door anyway. Near the entrance is the bank manager's desk. When the manager sees the masked gunman, he instinctively leans forward. The robber appears to interpret the movement as a threat. The Friday night bank robber does not hesitate. He shoots the manager in the abdomen, severely wounding him. Investigators later say the robber must have ice water in his veins. After shooting the manager, he does not panic. He simply continues with the robbery. He is on a mission and he carries it out. The shooting proves that if anyone makes a move toward him, he will respond violently. The robber collects thousands of dollars and disappears again without a trace. He leaves no evidence inside or outside the bank. There are no abandoned cars nearby. The wounded bank manager, Warren Stiles, is rushed to an emergency room. After a tense fight for survival, he pulls through. But authorities fear the next victim may not be as lucky. The robber has shown he will confront people and will not tolerate being challenged. Law enforcement now understands his capacity for violence. For a long period, the Friday night bank robber continues hitting banks along the East Coast. He makes no effort to hide his violent tendencies. He physically assaults male tellers. He uses vulgar, threatening language. His tone alone is enough to terrify and subdue many of his victims. One victim, Nora Whitcomb, remembers what it feels like to be trapped in his rage. She remembers thinking, "I cannot move, I cannot move." She stands frozen as he screams at her to get up. Then reality snaps into place and she presses the alarm beneath her desk. That is when he jumps over the teller counter. When someone puts a gun in your face, the fear does not simply end when they leave. He brings terror into the bank, and he leaves part of that terror behind with the people he threatens. Leaves part of that. For victims, an armed robbery can be life-altering. You never know what someone with a gun will do. Despite the efforts of many law enforcement officers dedicated to catching him, the Friday night bank robber remains untouchable. He appears and disappears without warning. Investigators do not know what they are looking for. They do not know where to look. The frustration is overwhelming. They want to get to him any way they can because they want to stop him, but he is like a ghost. After the discovery of the hidden bunkers filled with firearms, military gear, and cryptic documents, the FBI believes it may finally be on the trail of the notorious Friday night bank robber. He is one of the most disciplined adversaries law enforcement has ever faced because of his professionalism as a criminal. But one question still haunts investigators. What is one man doing with enough firepower to arm a militia? Why would someone store so many weapons in the mountains? What purpose could that possibly serve? Investigators discuss different possibilities, but none fully explain it. Some agents never doubt that the bunkers belong to the Friday night bank robber. He is not a typical bank robber. A typical bank robber is often local, tied to drugs, and working with others. This man appears to work alone. He plans every offense carefully. Every bank he chooses is located near a wooded area, giving him a path to escape unseen. After the near-fatal shooting of the bank manager, authorities increase their efforts to catch him in the act. But he proves to be as careful as he is methodical. Investigators conduct stakeouts at likely banks, focusing on places that match the pattern of banks he has robbed before. They also watch some banks he has already hit, because he has robbed some locations more than once. They are never in the right place at the right moment. The way he keeps avoiding detection baffles the FBI and local law enforcement. At times, it feels as though he may be toying with them, pulling authorities into a strange game of cat and mouse. On one occasion, a surveillance team watches a bank on a night when nothing happens. Soon after, that same bank is robbed. During an unusual daylight robbery, the robber strikes as the vault has just been opened for an armored car delivery. He removes money from the safe and flees through the front doors. The amount he takes is far larger than what investigators have seen in many of the earlier robberies. Roadblocks go up. A full-scale manhunt begins. Investigators search the wood lines for physical evidence. They go door to door, asking residents whether anyone saw anything. Once again, the Friday night bank robber seems to vanish into thin air. The frustration deepens. Investigators want to solve the case. They want to build a strategy that will finally identify the man responsible. But again and again, they have almost nothing to work with. After many robberies, the investigative team reaches out to Special Agent Holden Pierce. Agents tell Pierce there is a man who has been robbing banks for years, and they still have no idea who he is. Pierce and his colleagues review years of reports, surveillance footage, and eyewitness accounts. Piece by piece, they create the most complete suspect profile yet. They believe they are looking for a white male of shorter height, someone who keeps to himself. He likely has military training. He's probably physically active and may practice martial arts. He has a strong working knowledge of weapons in the areas where he operates. He is intelligent, disciplined, and formidable. For years, his planning and intelligence make life extremely difficult for law enforcement. But after the discovery of the military-style bunkers in Pennsylvania, investigators have a new set of questions. Why the massive cache of weapons? Could the Friday night bank robber be planning something bigger? The concern is no longer only about past robberies. Investigators worry someone may be hurt again, and they want to prevent that from happening. Agents send evidence from the bunkers to the FBI lab at Quantico. Meanwhile, a task force begins combing through the remaining documents for anything that might reveal the suspect's identity. A large meeting is held. Leads are assigned to different agencies and teams, so the investigation can move forward. Several recovered items quickly catch investigators' attention. Inside the first bunker is a list of books. They are all statistics books. One investigator thinks the suspect must either love mathematics or work in a related field. The list also references the Camp Hill Juvenile Detention Facility and a middle school in Lower Marion, Pennsylvania. It is a starting point. Then investigators find a more promising clue. Among the notes are references to karate videos and plaques connected to a karate organization. One investigator searches the name and discovers a national karate network. But the network is large, with schools in many cities. That makes the clue less direct than investigators hoped. Agents contact the head of the organization, Graham Hensley. They explain the type of person they are seeking. A shorter man, quiet, interested in weapons, possibly with military experience. Hensley says the description could apply to many people in the organization. Still, he offers help and provides detailed information about his karate schools. Before searching the entire network, investigators focus on a few affiliated dojos in the Philadelphia area, including one not far from where the Radnor bunker was discovered. They plan to go in and ask whether anyone there is short, very interested in math, and private about his personal life. But they do not have to look very far. When agents enter the karate studio, the first man they meet is shorter than average. They ask what he does for a living. He says he is a high school teacher. What do you teach? Chemistry. Immediately, investigators become suspicious. He seems to match parts of the profile. He could be the Friday night bank robber. His name is Rowan Calder. Agents interview Calder carefully, but his calm openness and willingness to speak convince Agent Pierce that he is not the man they are looking for. Experienced investigators can often sense when someone is lying. Calder does not feel deceptive. Just as agents are ready to move on to the next dojo, Calder mentions a friend who seems to match some of the traits they have been describing. This friend is one of the top karate practitioners in the studio. When agents ask what he does for a living, Calder says he is a self-employed statistician. The man's name is Victor Kessler. Calder says Kessler is one of his closest friends. But when agents ask if Kessler is married, Calder has to think about it. He does not know. Everyone in the room senses there may be more to Kessler than they first realized. Investigators return to their office and run Kessler's name. They find a criminal history. As a teenager, Kessler was shot while committing a burglary at a candy store in Haverford Township. He later spent time at Camp Hill Juvenile Detention Center. Camp Hill is the same facility referenced among the items found in the bunker. Kessler's fingerprints are sent immediately to the FBI lab for comparison against any prints technicians can recover from the bunker materials. Meanwhile, investigators dig deeper into his background. Soon they realize he fits the profile almost perfectly. Kessler graduates from Villanova, then enters the military. He later continues his education, earning advanced degrees in engineering and statistics. That makes investigators more confident that they may have found their man. With his background information in hand, an FBI clerk tracks down a local address. Then comes a stunning moment. Kessler lives directly across the street from the apartment complex near where the first bunker was found. But authorities do not want to reveal their interest too soon. They still need more evidence. Investigators go to the apartment complex and speak with the property manager about Kessler. The manager says people have wondered whether Kessler is CIA or in witness protection because he seems strange. When asked why, the manager explains that Kessler runs a lot. Running alone is not strange, but Kessler runs fully clothed, wearing a backpack. To investigators, this looks like conditioning. He is training himself physically in the same type of clothing he might wear during a robbery or escape. They also learn that Kessler does not go to a regular job every day and presents himself as an unemployed statistician. Suspicion increases when investigators find out he moved out of his apartment soon after the Radnor bunker was discovered. They believe he may have seen the FBI recovering the bunker materials, or perhaps noticed during a walkthrough that his hidden site had been disturbed. At that point, he would know he had a problem. After a long hunt, the FBI is now convinced it has identified the Friday night bank robber. But there is still no direct physical evidence linking him to the robberies themselves. The case is strong but risky. No witness can point to him and say, that is the man who robbed the bank. Kessler is placed under surveillance. This time, the team is determined to catch him in the act. The surveillance is not constant, but investigators keep watching him as they search for more evidence. At the same time, search teams continue following the robber's coded maps. They find more bunkers containing weapons, documents, and gear. One of the sites is especially large, filled with buckets of stored material. Agents still do not know why Kessler is hiding such large quantities of weapons and supplies in the woods. But their persistence finally pays off. One bunker yields fingerprint evidence. The prints are an exact match for Victor Kessler. Investigators can now link him to the bunkers, and they strongly believe he is linked to the bank robberies too. There is no single smoking gun tying him directly to the robberies, but there is a large amount of circumstantial evidence. While prosecutors and agents work to assemble the case, surveillance teams keep watching their prime suspect. Kessler works out often. He visits the Philadelphia Free Library, he does some banking. From the outside, he looks like an ordinary man going about an ordinary life. Agents worry they may not have enough evidence to convict him. They are eager to catch him robbing a bank. Then the investigation is suddenly interrupted. A major national crisis shifts the FBI's focus toward terrorism. Bank robberies become a lower priority. The Kessler investigation is pushed into the background, but he is not forgotten. Then another bank is hit in Yardley, Pennsylvania. The method is the same. Soon after, another robbery takes place outside Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The suspect enters close to closing, walks to the teller counter, wears a Halloween-style mask, carries a gun, and dresses in loose clothing. His height and build match Kessler. After a long, quiet stretch, the Friday night bank robber appears to be active again. And the more active he becomes, the greater the chance that someone will be hurt or killed. Investigators decide they can no longer risk the safety of bank employees, civilians, or law enforcement officers. If they have identified him, they need to arrest him. The arrest is first considered at his apartment. But agents are deeply concerned. Kessler has military experience, special training, and extensive familiarity with weapons. The safety of the arresting agents is a major concern. So they wait for the right opportunity. SWAT officers arrest him outside the Philadelphia Free Library. He goes there to check out a book. Instead, he gets checked out. Without the mask and the gun, he no longer looks frightening. He looks like a sad, aging man. But prosecutors soon face serious obstacles. Because of legal time limits on robbery charges, the federal government can only charge Kessler with a limited number of the many robberies investigators believe he committed. And with little hard evidence, there is no guarantee that one of America's most formidable bank robbers will not walk free. The case is entirely circumstantial. Prosecutors plan to tie it together by linking multiple bank robberies to information found in the bunkers and then linking those bunkers to Victor Kessler. In a final attempt to find a direct connection, investigators contact bank tellers who saw the Friday night bank robber in action. They ask the tellers to examine masks, guns, and other recovered items to see if they recognize anything. For many victims, time has made the memories less sharp. Still, several say the recovered masks look like the ones used during the robberies. If tellers can identify the masks, it strengthens the case. Kessler initially pleads not guilty. Then, shortly before trial, he surprises everyone. His attorney tells prosecutors that Kessler wants to speak. Agent Pierce knows he may have only one chance to talk to him. Kessler is fascinating in person. When people imagine a bank robber, they often picture someone openly violent and hard to speak with. But sitting across from Kessler is different. He is calm, intelligent, and almost disarming. It is a sharp contrast to the terror he inflicted on his victims. Kessler preferred hostile takeover robberies because he did not interact well with people. He was shy. His thinking was that if he immediately controlled everyone in the bank, there would be less chance of confrontation. He believed he could get in and out more smoothly that way. Not only does Kessler admit he is the Friday night bank robber, he tells investigators how and why it all began. During one of his first robbery attempts as a teenager, he was caught in the act. After his time at the juvenile facility, he returned to school. A counselor told him his record would damage his future and make it difficult to get a job. Despite his strong academic performance, Kessler eventually decides the military may be his only option. He applies for a position that requires a top-secret clearance. When he does not get it, he believes his background is the reason. He concludes that he may never be able to get a regular job, so he decides he needs another way to make money. Then he reads a newspaper article about a man who robbed a bank and escaped with a large amount of cash. Kessler thinks, I can do this. That is when he chooses bank robbery as his career. For a long time, he robs banks before law enforcement even realizes he is responsible. Kessler then explains how he managed to get in and out of so many banks without being seen. He uses a box van. In the back of the van, he keeps a motorcycle or off-road dirt bike. He drives the van to a distance from the target bank, then rides the dirt bike toward the area. He travels through roads and woods until he is within several miles of the bank. Then he hikes through the woods to reach the bank, usually choosing locations backed by wooded areas. After robbing the bank, he exits and disappears into the woods. He stashes the money and equipment in a hidden location, rides the dirt bike back to the van, and leaves. Later, he returns to pick up the money, gun, and clothing. That is how he gets away. During interviews with the FBI, Kessler admits to robbing many banks, but in court, he pleads guilty to only a small number of them. Investigators are surprised that he agrees to plead. He is intelligent, and they did not expect him to give up easily. In exchange for a prison sentence, Kessler agrees to share his secrets with the FBI. He helps create a training video, explaining his life as a bank robber and discussing what banks can do to protect themselves from people like him. Law enforcement later uses that information to train local, state, and federal agencies. But several mysteries remain. Why the elaborate bunker system? Why the huge arsenal of weapons? And what happened to all the money? Many of the items in the bunkers connect Kessler to the bank robberies. He does not want those things in his home. His thinking is simple. If the evidence is not in his house, it can be harder to connect directly to him. If it is hidden somewhere else, it could belong to anyone. Over the course of his criminal life, Kessler steals millions from banks. Much of it disappears into gambling. He spends much of his life gambling, preparing to gamble, recovering from gambling, or planning bank robberies. Kessler tells investigators he once viewed bank robbery as a victimless crime. He believed he was taking money from banks, not ordinary people. But investigators challenge him. To get that money, he had to go through people. He had to point guns at them. He had to scream at them. He had to terrorize them. One victim explains it clearly. When a man points a gun at you, yells at you, and takes control of your world, he takes more than money. He takes your sense of security. That loss stays with you. It angers her that Kessler believed he could walk into a bank, take the money, and leave without hurting anyone. Despite all his bold and violent acts, Victor Kessler might have remained a ghost forever if two boys had not made a random discovery in the Radnor Woods. He was a man who could have succeeded in many other fields. Instead, he chose to become one of the most infamous bank robbers the country had ever seen.